car crash cases, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts. The attorneys with Josh Wright from the law firm of Hollis, Wright, and host David Lamb.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. Appreciate you spending your Sunday evening with us. For the next half hour, we're going to provide the answers to your tough legal questions by a panel of experts, and we'd love to have you be a part. Throughout the program, you're going to see ways where you can call, text, email, and be a part of this discussion. Welcome you to do so. Our topic of conversation tonight, nursing home negligence and abuse. Leading the discussion is going to be Josh Wright from the firm of Hollis Wright. And in the circle of life, Josh, they took care of us when we were young. Oftentimes when things come back around and our parents get older, it falls on us to take care of them.
Well, you know, this is a great topic, and I'll tell you why it's relevant. 70% of us, the most recent statistic is 70% of us will need some form of extended nursing care in our lifetime. And with 70 million baby boomers just about to hit the age of 65 years old, this issue is going to affect more families in our community than you would even expect. I bet. So we're real excited to be here today to talk about nursing home negligence and abuse and a couple other things related to nursing home. At my firm, one of my partners is Carter Clay, and we brought Carter on. Carter handles cases like this and is involved in this type of litigation, and I think it's going to be a good little expert for us to answer questions relevant and pertinent to the topic. So thank you for being on with us today.
Well, thank you, Josh. Thank you, David. It's great to be on the show, and even better to be with the firm.
Perfect. Glad to have you aboard.
As we kind of kick off this discussion of nursing homes, help us understand how they are regulated.
Well, it is quite a massive area of regulation, either through federal law or state law. In the Code of Federal Regulations, which have the full force and effect of law, these nursing homes are governed by those regulations. Additionally, there are state regulations that would also govern the nursing homes. But in the context of our law firm and law firms that handle these types of cases, ultimately what it comes down to is similar to what you have in a medical malpractice case, whether it be somebody getting treated at a hospital or by a doctor. Right. And what it comes down to is did the nursing home violate or breach the standard of care that was relevant in place and pertinent to the type of treatment that they were administering to the resident at the time that they were injured. In other words, if the person fell and broke their leg at a nursing home, did the nursing home comply with the standard of care as it relates to the transfer of the patient from, say, the bed to a wheelchair, from the wheelchair back to the bed? And ultimately, you would have to get into expert testimony and have people come in and talk about what those standards are and whether they did or did not comply with those standards.
One of the things that's interesting in this form of litigation, too, is that Carter's correct, that there's an accepted standard for certain types of conduct that's going to take place at a nursing home. In addition to that, there also are sometimes policies and procedures that are used at the nursing homes that can help supplement and establish what the standard is for an applicable circumstance.
Okay. If we have some viewers who are making these considerations and they're beginning to investigate and research what's the best idea in terms of senior care, nursing home care for their loved ones, what should they keep in mind and what should they consider?
Well, what I would recommend is I would recommend that they start with the Alabama Department of Public Health. They have a very good website that you can go to that you can find out a whole host of information about all of the nursing homes in the state of Alabama. They literally have all of the nursing home facilities listed on there. You can find out the quality of those nursing homes from the standpoints of whether or not they have been cited for any types of violations in the past. You can find a whole, just a wide variety of information about those nursing homes. So I would start with that website. You can also go to the Medicare, Medicaid websites, which also offers information about nursing homes in your local areas and throughout the state as well. And quite frankly, I would talk to other people in the community who have had family members or loved ones, whether it be aunts, uncles, moms, and dads, and ask them questions about their experiences at various nursing homes in the community to find out information that might be pertinent to you making a decision on where you want your loved one to go if they need that type of care.
And I agree with Carter 100% on that. You know, the AARP recently created kind of a checklist and compared and evaluated and pitted states against each other. And unfortunately, Alabama ranks last, 50 of 50 states, and I hate to even mention that, but it's the fact. We rank last in health care related to our seniors. That's not to say that all health care entities and organizations and nursing homes aren't doing it the right way, because plenty are doing it the right way. But as far as the scorecard goes, compared and pitted against other states, we're in a bad spot. So I agree with Carter 100%. One of the keys is you really do want to compare and analyze each nursing home against the other to make sure that you're putting your loved one in the right place.
A question we've got here. I took my mother to 3 different nursing homes. No one would take her without me signing an arbitration agreement. Tell me why they require that and what is all that about?
Well, the nursing homes are going to require an arbitration agreement because it's advantageous to them to have an arbitration agreement in place. And the reason that it's advantageous to them to have that arbitration agreement is that what you're doing is that the resident or patient to be admitted is waiving their right to have their case presented to a jury or judge for a decision. And instead, they are agreeing to have any complaint based on an injury, if they suffer one in the nursing home, to be decided by an arbitrator. Now, there are all different kinds of arbitration processes. Sometimes arbitrations will involve a panel of 2 or 3 arbitrators. Sometimes it will just be a single arbitrator. But these arbitrators are selected typically through the American Arbitration Association, and they'll have a list of what they characterize as neutral arbitrators from which you can select to arbitrate or hear your case. Those arbitrators are typically professionals, typically lawyers or retired judges, high income type people. They do not typically represent what I will characterize as a cross section of the community. When you try your case in front of a jury, say you have 12 jurors, those jurors are supposed to represent a cross section of the community. From A to Z, you're supposed to have all walks of life. Everybody in the community comes in. You have 36 or 40 jurors, say, to select your jury from. And you get low-income wage earners, blue-collar workers, professional-type people. You're not going to get that type of individual to hear your case in arbitration. And studies show that those arbitrators are typically more conservative and likely to go with the nursing home in these types of situations. And it's sort of the repeat customer syndrome sets in as well, is that a lot of these nursing homes are owned and operated by huge corporations that have nursing homes spread out throughout the entire country. Well, if an arbitrator finds in favor of the nursing home repeatedly, these nursing homes or these large corporations are likely going to continue to select that arbitrator. On the other hand, if he finds in favor of the injured victim and awards a large sum of money, he's likely not going to be selected by the corporation the next time.
We handle these type cases related to arbitration in nursing homes all the time, and the reality is that we expect and assume when we get into a nursing home case for evaluation that there's likely going to be an arbitration provision. You have the right when you're signing into a nursing home and you're becoming a resident to refuse to sign an arbitration agreement. However, most likely you're not going to be able to go to that nursing home. They're going to tell you if you're not going to sign an arbitration agreement, you're going to have to go find another nursing home. Right. So you don't have to sign arbitration agreements, but likely you're going to ultimately have to sign one in order to get into a nursing home that you want to.
Right. And David, if I could just jump in, there is one advantage though to the arbitration process, and that is that if you are fortunate enough to get an award in arbitration, they can't then go back to the court system and appeal that decision. There is no right to an appeal from an arbitrator's award like there would be in court, with a few minor exceptions.
Arbitration is also much faster than general litigation.
Exactly.
Time for our first break. As we head to break, a reminder of how you can be involved in the conversation. You can call, text, email. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned. More of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright, and thanks for watching The Attorneys on Alabama's 13. Now, we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never need legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple. Provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Now, your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to this show or related to other civil legal matters, call, email, or text us to talk with one of our lawyers. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter to learn about important legal news that could affect you or your family, or simply contact us by going to alabamas13.com and click on the Attorneys link. Now, we know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and for watching The Attorneys right here on Alabama's 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Appreciate you being with us tonight. I run into folks all the time who say, do you really respond to the questions? And the answer is yes. So if you're sitting there and you got a question for us, we'd love to hear it. You can call, text, email, try to make it easy for you, and I will be sure and pass those questions on to our panel of experts. But you really do answer every email that comes in.
We do, and sometimes it will take a little time because we get a lot of emails, a lot of texts. And of course a lot of calls, but one of the nice things is we've got lawyers that are available to answer questions when people call. So they will get a live lawyer that answers a question for them that night for the most part. There are some exceptions to that, but for the most part they should, depending on the volume of calls coming in. And if somebody texts and emails, we will also make sure we respond to those questions and try and help people. And we always say, if our firm can't assist you personally, hopefully we can get you in touch with someone that can.
Right. Yep. So we'd love to hear from you as the discussion's ongoing. Please join in. A question we've got here: I went to a local nursing home, did my homework about the chain of command on the nursing home administration. If I have a problem with the nursing home administrator, what do I do next?
Well, the nursing home administrator is the individual that is licensed through the state of Alabama to essentially administer those services at that nursing home, and typically they have to have a significant background and experience in administering those services in a nursing home setting. If you run into issues with the nursing home administrator, what I would suggest doing is contacting the risk services department or the risk management department at the nursing home. All of these entities are going to have quality assurance divisions or departments within the nursing home that you can go to register any complaint that you have. But of course you can go to any employee, the medical director, the nurses there, and talk with them about any issues or complaints that you might have. If you still don't get anywhere, then really the next stop would be the Alabama Department of Public Health, which is the enforcement mechanism in the state. They can literally, with a phone call notification to the nursing home, can go in there and investigate the nursing home concerning your complaint. And in fact, typically, they may uncover other problems in the nursing home as well.
And the Department of Public Health has got a website, and they have complaint forms directly on the website that you can use. You can also make direct calls to them. There's also, and I know Carter kind of touched on some of the issues, there really is a chain of command. I mean, you want to start, if you can, with the caregiver staff that are evaluating and working with your loved one on a daily basis, and then maybe you go to the charge nurse if you're not able to get help there. You work your way up to the administrator, and then oftentimes nursing homes will have grievance policies that you can follow. Ultimately, Carter's correct. If you can't get help from the facility director or administrator, then you're probably going to have to go to the Department of Public Health or come to a lawyer and let the lawyer help evaluate the case for you, write the letters that are necessary to make sure that the loved one is getting the care and treatment that they deserve.
Okay. Another question we've got here. I can't be at the nursing home all the time. If I think my dad is not being treated right, what should I be looking for?
Well, that's a great question, and it raises a whole host of issues. Obviously, as children or grandchildren, we want to be there for our parents, and we want to be there, especially when they're in a nursing home setting, to make sure that they're being administered good and proper care. But we can't be there all the time. We have children, we have jobs, and those types of things. What I would look for, and what we typically see as problems in nursing homes that ultimately end up in the attorney's office that could then lead to litigation is a failure to, let's say, rotate the individual. Let's say that they're essentially confined to a bed. It's real important that the nursing staff rotate that individual from the back to the side to the stomach to prevent what we call pressure ulcers or pressure sores, bed sores, and decubitus ulcers. Those things are very dangerous. They can lead to death, significant infections, and a lot of problems. Falls are a big problem in nursing homes. When an individual is admitted into a nursing home, the staff is actually supposed to do a fall risk assessment on that individual, and they're supposed to basically place them at a particular level of risk for falls, and depending upon what their level of risk is, they have to set up proper precautions and measures to prevent that individual from falling. Dehydration and malnutrition, weight loss, those are the types of things to look out for. Other aspects of treatment, such as, let's say somebody has to have a catheter or they have to have an IV, it's important to watch the site in which the IV goes in because infection can set in there. Those are just some of the things to look out for.
We tell people oftentimes, be inconsistent. Don't just come at the same time to visit your loved one every single day, where the caregivers understand that. Be inconsistent, right. Go at different times. Talk with the caregiver. Build a relationship with the charge nurse that's in charge of your loved one. And then also communicate with the loved one to make sure that you're gathering as much information as you can. And look, like we often say on the show, we're not saying every nursing home's doing it the wrong way. There are some great nursing homes in this area and around the state that do it the right way and are giving great care and really assisting elder individuals. At the end of the day, though, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the position and posture to make sure that you know whether or not your loved one is in a nursing home is doing it the right way. And if they're not, there's a set of procedures and protocols you can go through to make sure that you protect your person.
As the host of this show, one of the advantages I think to having attorneys who really specialize in a certain area is that you have examples of those potential pitfalls. Because if you're taking a parent and you don't really know, it's almost like you're going to an unknown world, so you really don't even know what you're looking for. So in terms of some of the common mistakes that may help so that they don't get in this position, what are the common mistakes that you see people making on the front end that could prevent scenarios like what we've heard these questions?
Well, one thing I would mention, and Carter, I'll let you answer too, is don't ever forget that you can request, most nursing homes have a set of rights that an individual elderly person that's coming to a nursing home has. Oftentimes, in general terms, you've got the right to be free from physical and emotional and sexual abuse, the right to be free from seclusion. You can't just seclude an elderly individual and not surround them with caregivers and other people there at the facility. So, you may want to try and find what the Bill of Rights, if you will, at the nursing home are. That's kind of a good start to be able to make sure that you know how the nursing home is caring for, in general terms, the loved one. And then to watch for the symptoms and signs that Carter talked about, from bed sores to infections to consistent falls and accidents and broken bones. Those are the things that you want to watch for to make sure your loved one's being cared for properly.
And I would just add to that, David, also ask to see the medical records. Ask to see the medical chart there at the nursing home. The individual patient can consent to anybody reviewing the medical records and having access to those medical records. Typically, a lot of times when you're dealing with the elderly, some individuals are incompetent. They are actually admitted into the nursing home facility by a sponsor or a guardian or a legal representative or somebody who has power of attorney over them. All of those individuals have the right to access those medical records and look at those charts and see what's going on, and then make a determination as to whether what is in the chart is consistent with what they're seeing and perhaps what they're being told by the resident themselves.
And if an issue arises, communication really is the key. We've talked about the chain of command that you should go through. Having a relationship with the caregivers that are caring for your loved one is a critical component to making sure that you've got a good relationship at the nursing home and your elderly individuals being properly cared for. We often separate these things into life-threatening and non-life-threatening disputes and issues that come up. And you really have to classify those, but at the end of the day, both of those things, communication is the key to that, to make sure that you know that the people that are caring for your loved one are doing it the right way.
Yeah. And as an example of the communication issue, we are currently representing an individual that sustained a broken leg from a fall during the course of a transfer from a bed to a wheelchair. And what happened is that a doctor had placed the individual patient on medication that can lead to sleepiness, confusion, having just dreariness in general, and it was not communicated to the nurse that he was on that medication, so they didn't change the precautions that they should have changed in order to make sure that transfer was good.
Just a breakdown there. Hey, time for our second break. As we head to break, a reminder again of how you can get in touch with the firm of Hollis Wright. Really make it easy to do so. Call, text, email. You can also find them on Facebook. Just search Hollis Wright, or on Twitter, it's Hollis_Wright. Stay tuned. The final segment of The Attorney is coming right up.
I'm Josh Firth with the law firm of Hollis Wright. When it comes to a lawsuit against medical professionals, it may seem like the law favors the medical community over the injured patient, and in many ways it does. While not every bad medical outcome is malpractice, it's important to know what obstacles you may face if you're injured as a result of poor medical care. So in tonight's Legal 411, we're answering the question, does medical malpractice really exist? The answer is yes. But if something is ruled malpractice, Alabama law limits the amount of information that can be presented to a jury about a doctor. Medical malpractice is defined as a doctor's failure to use the degree of care and skill that a physician or surgeon in the same specialty would use under similar circumstances. For example, a surgeon can only be judged by the standards for a surgeon, a dermatologist by the standards for a dermatologist. These standards and the evidence that goes to a jury are controlled by Alabama statute, which is called the Medical Liability Act. This act prevents juries from hearing about a doctor's past mistakes or malpractice issues, limits the scope of information available to the injured party, and prevents any mention of liability insurance, which would pay a judgment, the very point of malpractice insurance in the first place. However, even with these restrictions, malpractice cases can still be won. The law does protect both parties and provides access to the jury system for people who have been injured after poor medical treatment. That's why it's so important to get legal help quickly if you face this situation. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is always free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer the questions you face on real issues every day. And remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on Alabama's 13.
Appreciate you joining us. Love this topic. Hopefully providing some really helpful information for you if you are at that point in your life where you're kind of taking care of your parents. Now, just our final segment here, so let's jump right into more of these questions. Another good one here. I was told that I had to use their doctor, I assume that's the nursing home's doctor or physician, for any treatment in a nursing home. Is that true?
I would say no, but they do have a doctor oftentimes in-house, and that doctor will make rounds and see the patient or the resident. But you certainly have the right to go see your own doctor, whomever that may be, if you're more comfortable seeing that doctor. Now, that does not mean that you have the right to have that doctor come to the facility to treat you there. There may be certain regulations and prohibitions against that from happening, but certainly if you've got a family member that wants you to take you to a general practitioner or an internist that is in the local community outside the nursing home, you certainly have the right to do that. You certainly have the right to access the pharmacy that you're accustomed to using. And there may be situations where nursing homes have transportation that they offer to various local doctor groups that you can go see through that route as well.
All right, another question we've got here. My mother fell at her nursing home. Nobody will meet with me about how the fall happened. Do they have to meet with me?
Yes, they have to meet with you, and this gets back to what we talked about earlier, which is did you sign a consent form or an authorization form that would allow other individuals to have access to your medical records and be able to communicate with the personnel at the nursing home? And typically upon admission, an individual, especially an elderly individual, will have a sponsor or a guardian or a legal representative that is there sort of helping them with the paperwork and getting them admitted into the nursing home. And certainly those people would have access to that information. And in terms of changes in the condition of the patient, this gets a little bit back to the Bill of Rights or the patient's rights that we talked about earlier. If there are changes in the patient's condition, or if there are changes through doctor's orders and things like that, those types of changes should be communicated to the family member or the sponsor for that individual resident.
All right. I want to get to as many of these questions as we can, so let's just try to buzz through another one here. I was told that I needed a power of attorney to admit my aunt into a nursing home. Is that true?
Well, yes, certainly a power of attorney or a durable power of attorney would give you the right to admit somebody into a nursing home, but there are other avenues of representation that would also allow you to admit a loved one or an aunt into a nursing home, whether it be going to the courthouse and getting a guardian paperwork issued or those types of things that would allow you to do that.
One thing to mention is if you're going to get a power of attorney to allow yourself to do that, to care for that loved one, make sure you get a durable power of attorney that will last past the time that the person is incapable of making their own decisions. A durable power of attorney is just a little more flexible. We don't need to go into it in the show, other than to simply say that it's a little more flexible, and it gives a little more flexibility in being able to care and help for someone when they can't help for themselves.
Okay, got about 3 minutes remaining, so one more question before our final thought. I'm trying to decide between two different nursing homes to place my father. Is there any way for me to compare the care of one nursing home versus another?
Absolutely, and when we touched upon this as well earlier, go to the Alabama Department of Health website, talk to people in the local community, talk to people that have had loved ones or family members in those particular nursing homes that you're looking at. One thing that I would suggest as well is ask them in advance for a copy of the admissions agreement. Okay. Look through the admissions agreement, see if there's anything that's troublesome to you or objectionable. Perhaps talk with the individuals at the nursing home about your concerns. And I just don't think you can do enough due diligence to protect loved ones in these types of situations.
And you're not going to fire the nursing home staff up by asking for these things. You won't be the only person asking for these. This is a big decision. When you are putting a loved one into the hands of another group permanently to assist them with their care and treatment, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And if you're not in the right place, you want to find the right place for somebody. So at the end of the day, asking for these types of things like facility manuals and Bill of Rights and those things are not a bad idea.
And David, as part of the process of evaluating nursing homes, what I would also suggest is to the extent that the elderly individual or family member is competent, to talk about advance directives, and that is what does the family member or the patient want in the event that their condition deteriorates.
Right. Real quick time, just for a final comment, 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah, personally, I think I'll be 40 years old this year. My parents have always been good to me, and as a child, I think as a society, we have a moral obligation to protect our family members and the elderly and do what we can to help them in these types of situations.
Right,
communication's the key, from the charge nurse to the staff that care for your loved one to the administrator and facility director. Make sure you've got a good line of communication with the nursing home group.
Really great advice tonight. Hope you benefited as well. Appreciate you being with us. As we wrap up, want to let you know again how you can get in touch with the firm of Hollis Wright. Call, text, email, find them on Facebook and Twitter. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright.